You know, nature is genius. So the big question, I guess, is why aren't we? Humans are a species that consider ourselves on top of the food chain, which of course is preposterous because fungi are actually at the top of the food chain. When everything else is said and done and animals have died off and the plants have died off, the fungi will always rule the kingdom and find something. Of course, we've got the cyanobacteria, a whole plethora or cornucopia, if you will, of different creatures that can live much easier than we can. But since we have these thinking minds and we can create and destroy so much at once, we have this idea that we dominate the landscape, and therefore we have questions. And one of these questions is, am I the keeper of nature as an individual and as a species? Before I started this video, I thought of the Lorax. And I thought, isn't it funny? I am the Lorax, I speak for the trees. And how pretty much everyone has seen the Lorax. And I've never seen anyone who just says, oh, that stupid tree hugger. In everyone's mind, that watches that says, yeah, we probably shouldn't take more than our share. And yes, if you destroy too much, then nature will fight back. And this is what we see time and again. And we are right now at the precipice of change. And the question I have here is the Earth going to fight back, and how? Now, of course, this depends on whether you consider the Earth conscious or whether it's just by chance that our actions create a reaction. But either way, you could consider it kind of our fate that we set ourselves up for. Now, I told a story several years ago about the acacia trees down in South Africa. And there were these antelope that were dying in large droves inside of these wildlife refuges, but only these 2 refuges, and the rest of them they were fine. And they found out that the acacia trees they were eating were being overgrazed. And when overgrazed, the acacia tree will produce a toxin. This toxin slows down the digestion of the antelope and makes them unable to eat. Therefore, they literally die of starvation. This plant is aware that if it's overgrazed, it knows how to protect itself. So this one article I found a minute ago, I thought I would... Sorry. This is a different one I read about acacia trees. It says the acacia tree, so often featured in stunning photographs, is one of the strangest of all. The acacia trees, which form a large part of the diet of herbivores, are capable of killing off the antelope that eat them. Going a step further, the trees can warn others of its kind that there are browsers in the area who would like to make a meal of them. Perhaps the stately giraffe has known the potentially lethal side effects of browsing on acacia for millennia. Giraffe will stand in a forest of acacia and nibble gently and carefully at the uppermost young leaves and then move away upwind to another tree after a relatively short time, even though there are still lots of leaves left behind it can eat. The secret lethal reason for this is that acacia trees are able to raise the tannin C levels in their leaves when browsers start to eat them. Within 15 minutes of an animal starting to eat, the tannin C levels can shoot up to a higher amount than normal. While tannin C on its own is not a poison, it can combine with other protein molecules to form food in the gut of the antelope and make the leaves indigestible. If the animals are confined to a fenced area and unable to move away, they will literally starve to death on the savanna plain. And it says, eliminating other sources of the killer element, he discovered the amazing fact that these acacia trees were capable of defending themselves from overbrowsing by literally killing off the animals that ate their leaves. To top this off, he found that they also release ethylene from damaged leaves, which float downwind and are absorbed by neighboring trees. The ethylene acts as a warning signal, a chemical SOS. The neighboring trees then start to produce more tannins. Now, this is well known in the plant kingdom, and in fact, more and more that we're learning about how, even forests can, if a forest is too dry, the terpenes, what you smell in a pine forest, these are small molecules. If a forest is very dry, these terpenes will rise way up into the atmosphere and act as nuclei for moisture to condense on. So it can't create its own rain, but it can create the nuclei for the rain. And this is why these weather systems will start to grow up next to the mountains. The entire system is intertwined, and it's a self-governing and self-healing system, which has gone on for millions of years, well, billions of years. But as far as the stability of what we have right now, it could all fall apart quickly. We're living in a very delicate time in history right now, between ice ages, which is the norm, chaotic weather patterns, and we're living in a very interesting time. I mean, thousands of years ago, the deserts down there, in Africa were forests and jungles. Desertification takes over quick, but the point here is that we are so deeply intertwined with our own world. Now we've started to kind of back away from our responsibility because we're shocked, I think, at how much damage we can actually do. The things that we can burn, into our atmosphere. But on top of that, of course, the smaller, lesser known pollutants and chemicals that we put into our water, that go into our waterways, into our foods, the crap that they pump pigs and cows full of, and chickens, and the types of what we consider organic food. And all the while, we're also facing all kinds of other invisible enemies. We've got bacteria and viruses, and now the world's more interconnected than ever, so it's more important than ever that we don't destroy ourselves. And speaking of viruses, it's a very easy thing to avoid by not interfering in areas that, I guess, if humans are living within their means, and not going and cutting down entire forests, and they're not going to unleash as many of these, but you can't really avoid it. What is your deal, bird? He's tripping, man. He's pissed off about something. Anyway, it's pretty loud, pretty distracting actually, but that's nature. That's what nature does. Those birds are calling each other. They're singing their song, they're telling their story, and there's another bird, but that's a man-made bird, and that's a different story altogether. So anyhow, I guess I just wanted to touch on how important it is that we can't change the world overnight. We can't force other people to recognize that, when somebody calls me a tree hugger, I just shake my head. I'm like, yeah, I literally do hug trees. I love nature. I love to hug trees. I marvel at every waterfall and every beautiful rock and plant. Because what's the other option? I mean, I am grateful for what I have around me, and I know that I'm just part of this system. I don't own it. I don't dominate it. And it's just unfortunate because I don't really hold mankind accountable. I don't just say, oh, humans are stupid, we're all a bunch of idiots, look what we've done to our planet. Because I look back at each thing that was invented at its time, in its time. When we see, oh, everybody's driving cars today. Well, there was a time when a car was an amazing thing that could, haul wood we could have a truck to now get wood out of the forest without having to pull it with horses. I mean, these things helped us to lead better lives. And then we got to a point, somewhere in the last century, where we had enough. And we were doing fine. Instead of pulling a lot of people out of poverty and then just living within our means, we said, oh, everybody's doing better, we're just going to have more kids. And we overpopulated more and more and doubled the population in my lifetime. And now we're sitting back saying, how do we live within our means? And it's very difficult to do so. But what is our acacia tree? How long is it going to be? My dog's chasing squirrels. Can't stop that either. What is going to be our next acacia tree? How long is it going to be until the plants that we eat start producing toxins? Oh wait, they already do. You start thinking about many of the allergies that we have now, and the way that people react to certain foods, and the way that we have such a monoculture that if we don't diversify our portfolio of food, then we might end up in a lot of trouble. So anyway, those are my thoughts for the day. Thanks for listening, and try to live within your means. That's all I can say. I'm trying. I'm trying.